Yo, what's up guys? So welcome to my desktop. Today I'm gonna be doing just some editing tips, just general editing tips in hopes that they will help some people learn some just general editing strategies and stuff. I've gotten requests to do this on Instagram, so I'm gonna be doing it. I edit on Adobe After Effects, so let's just open that real quick. I'm editing for @ChaseBeFlippin on Instagram. Go check out his account. His edit will be there because I'm uploading this video after he's posted. This is kind of just like a funny / crazy trick edit because the trick he did is kind of funny but also quite impressive. Yeah, I'm going to be showing you how I sync, how I do effects, some settings I use, not my exact settings so people don't like copy everything, but just my general settings and stuff for stuff. Yeah, and everyone edits differently, but making this video just so I can show everybody how I edit and stuff like that. So let's just get started. All right, so I've got my composition open. These are my settings. Recently, I've been doing the dimensions 1520 by 1080. Most people do 1920 by 1080, the traditional rectangle, but I've switched it up, 1 to help Instagram quality, and 2, it's a bit alternative and creative looking, so yeah. I have my frame rate set to 30 FPS. I've tried 60. My computer takes a really long time to render 60 frames per second, and I feel like my edits are just better with 30 anyway. I feel like I can just work better with 30. I don't know why. Your duration is just based on how long the song is and how long you want the overall edit to be. And yeah, so those are my composition settings. So here I have the song, Chase wanted Bonfire, which is kind of funny, but also matches the trick, because it's a funny trick, good trick, funny song, kind of good song. So yeah, I have it zoomed in a bit. You can zoom it back out using minus and plus, plus zooming in, minus zooming out. And right now I'm gonna do some song muffling. All right, I'm gonna have the non-muffled part start about there. So this is how I muffle audio. A lot of people do it differently, but this is how I do it. A bunch of people have told me it's weird and way too complicated looking. It's really not, but this is how I do it, and it works well for me. So what you do, you duplicate the audio layer, just Command-CV or Control-CV if you're on PC or Mac. I'm on Mac, by the way. The top layer, move it to where you want the song to be not muffled anymore. Take the bottom layer and move it to where you want the muffle to stop. And then on this layer, the first layer, you're gonna want to add high low pass. And so you wanna change it from high pass to low pass. Set this to whatever. I tend to set it to like 300 or 350. I'll do 300. And then I add treble and bass. And I just bring the treble all the way down. Next, so the song fades in a bit, I go to the audio editor. So you just click on the clip right there, the little arrow, go to audio. At the beginning, I'll set the audio to like -60, just so it's completely silent. Set a keyframe, which is this little stopwatch. And then when I want it to be full volume, which for this one I might as well just do like maybe the end A, maybe, I don't want it to go that long, so I'll maybe put it here and have some just regular audio that's just muffled later, and set it to 0. 0 decibels is what you want it to be. All right, so there you go, I did that, and then duplicate it. I know that's a bit weird, but just makes it sound great. So now is when you're gonna be adding your clips. So I'm gonna add the first clip of Chase. So the first clip is this one, and it's just like a silly cinematic, but it should go well with the edit. I'm gonna turn off the sound, because I don't normally have the sound on. I sometimes do, depending on what the edit is. This one, I don't think I'm going to. God, okay, I gotta let Moo in real quick, hold on. Say hi to the YouTube video, Moo. So I sync with a plugin called Twixtor. So get Twixtor, and then just search it up in your effects and presets. I just use Twixtor, not Twixtor Pro or these ones. I think you can use those, but I never have because I've been told just to use Twixtor. So yeah, Twixtor, double click it, or just drag it in. Moo, seriously, stop getting on my desk. All right, so right here, you're gonna wanna uncheck that box and set the frame rate to whatever the clip was filmed in. And this one was filmed at 60 FPS, so set it to 60. And please, whenever you film on whatever device, please film in 1080p 60 FPS, not 4K. I don't really mess with anything else other than the frame rate and the speed, which I'll get to in just a sec. All right, so once you get it to a place where you want your slow-mo to happen, set a keyframe by clicking the stopwatch right by speed percentage. Okay, now you set a keyframe. You can click U on your keyboard to see the keyframes you set. Then move your cursor to wherever you want the clip to be fully in slow-mo and set a different speed. I typically do 50 to 25 depending on the edit. Mainly just 50, 25 is a bit too slow. 25 works more with emotional edits or really cool cinematics. For this one, I'm just gonna use 50. Okay, so I've set it to 50. All right, and you may be wondering why I added the slow-mo a little bit before the first big beat of the song. Reason why is I'm gonna show you guys how to graph because I see a graphing opportunity in this. So basically what you do is where the beat starts happening, which is about here, just change your speed to whatever you want it to be. And since this is gonna be kind of a speed rampy thing with a graph, I'm gonna set it pretty high. So I'm gonna do 150% speed. And then again, just move your cursor to where you want the speed to be back to normal or whatever you want. And I'm just gonna have it go back to 100 here. All right, and then to graph your keyframes, you're gonna wanna highlight the keyframes you want to graph. And in my case, that's these three. If you're on a Mac, you hit Fn F9 to go into the graph editor. And if it's a PC, you just do F9. So I'm on a Mac, I'll do Fn F9, and you see how the keyframes change like that, and that means you're there. Then you click the graph editor, and there you go. Now you're in the graph editor. So right now I'm gonna make a typical Gtramper edit speed ramp. So what you wanna do is, firstly, this is the keyframe where it's at 150% speed, which is the fastest point, and you want it to be at that point for the smallest amount of time possible. Well, not necessarily that, just a smaller amount of time than all the other speeds. So what you do is you take the graph and you move it like this. Moo, I told you to get off. And so what that does is it makes it take longer to get to the speed part, and then it's there for less time. So I'll show you what that looks like. It should look something like that. And then you can move your keyframes if you want it to happen sooner or later. And if you realize that you liked how it was at first and you don't remember where they were, you can just do Control or Command Z like that. So yeah, that's basically how I sync in a nutshell. I'm not gonna be showing you me syncing the whole edit because that would be really repetitive. So I'm gonna cut the recording and then I'm going to start recording again once I start effect. So yeah. Okay, so I haven't finished sync yet, but I thought I'd show this because this is something I normally do while I sync, and sorry for the bad audio. Before I had my phone as a microphone, now it's just my computer, but this is just something that I'm going to do real quick and doesn't need good audio for that long. I'm showing you how to do a gradient wipe transition. So what you'll do is you'll have one clip overlap another, and then bring up gradient wipe. And then what you want to do is, I set my transition softness to 50, and then set the transition completion to 100, so it shows the previous clip. Go down here, click O on your keyboard, and it brings you to the end of your adjustment layer. By the way, that's another shortcut. I and O bring you to the beginning and end of your adjustment layer. I is beginning, O is end. And it's not necessarily adjustment layers, you can do it with any layer. Then go back to this layer, make the transition completion 0, and there you go, you just did a gradient wipe. And then you can invert gradient so it transitions the other way around. And I think I'm gonna keep it there. So yeah, that's how you do gradient wipe transitions. Alright, what's up guys? I'm back. It's the next day. I finished actually the whole edit, not just the sync, and I'm back to having my phone as a microphone so the audio is a bit better. So yeah, the reason why I did the whole edit, or not necessarily the whole edit, I haven't done the CC or LUT yet. I've just done the rest of the sync and all the effects. The reason I did that is because I just wanted to make sure I did a good job on the edit, and then when I'm done, I'm gonna go through it all and go through each different effect, I guess, in depth to show you how I do it. So, yeah. Hello. Okay, so I'm editing the video right now, and I just want to clarify, when I say go over every different effect, I mean like different in general, not every single effect, because some of the effects are just like copy and paste and then change a little bit of it. So yeah, every effect that's different in general, not every single different effect in the whole thing. So first things first, let's just go to a Twitch. So here's a Twitch right here. And this is the way I set it up. So go to your effects and presets, search up Twitch, add Twitch to the adjustment layer, enable blur, light, scale, and slide. Then set the speed to 20. And keep the speed at 20 throughout the whole thing. I don't change it or keyframe it. You can, but I don't. It doesn't look as good for me. So what I do for Twitch is I start the layer with everything at 0. And then a couple frames later, like 2 to 3 frames later, I'll set it to what I want it to be. And for this one, I'll do 8. I don't do that high of Twitch. So you see at the top, there is like a black line. Whenever that happens, just go over to your effects and presets and search up motion tile. Bring it over to your layer. Make sure it's the top of the layer and above everything else. And see, you got rid of it there. So next thing I do with Twitch is I do the same thing I did with the amount, but with everything I enabled. So you go to operator controls, you leave blur alone, but you do the same thing you did to amount with light, scale, and slide. So go to light, set a keyframe, make it 0. Move a couple frames ahead, set it to whatever you want. I normally set mine to like 100. And then at the end of the layer, make it 0. Same exact thing for scale and slide. And slide RGB split. I don't keyframe it, but I do enable it, and I'll do it at like 30. And there you go. That's how I do a Twitch. And basically, I'll just copy and paste it throughout the whole edit and then change 1 or 2 things about it so it's not super repetitive. You'll notice that my style is quite simple, so I don't have a lot of crazy effects, and my effects aren't that different throughout the edit, but I definitely like them to be somewhat different, but still able to have like a rhythm and a pattern to it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. Okay, next thing I'll show you how to do is slide transitions like this. So that was a zoom out slide transition. Zoom out transitions and zoom in transitions have the same principle, so I'll just show you what I do for a zoom out and basically apply the same exact thing for a zoom in transition. Make sure you have motion tile on your layer. Make sure you have mirror edges checked, and just set your output width and height to like 500 or something. That's what I do, just to make sure it has the mirrored edges and not black lines. For a slide transition, or really any transform type of transition, I like to have the first adjustment layer 10 frames long and the second one about 15 frames long. You can do whatever you want, but that's kind of what I do. So yeah, add transform. Go to the beginning of your layer, set a keyframe next to scale, go to the end of the adjustment layer, and set it to like 30. That's normally what I set it to for a zoom out slide transition. Go to your keyframes, highlight them, FN F9, and go into the graph. If you want to do slide transitions, you have to graph, otherwise it just doesn't look good, in my opinion. So for a zoom out transition, I graph it like this. So it'll slowly and slowly get farther away, and then at the very end it'll go zoom. And then I'll add force motion blur, so it looks like it actually moves, and at the beginning I'll set it to like 0, and at the end 50. And that's half a slide transition. The other half, pretty similar, you're just doing the other way. You go ahead and add transform again. I set my first keyframe at like 500 on the scale. Just make it zoomed in if you're doing a zoom out transition, and this is the second part of it. And at the end, obviously make it 100. Don't make it 0 because 0 is that, so make sure it's at 100 at the end, not 0, otherwise it's nothing. Highlight your keyframes again, FN F9, and then I graph the second part of a zoom out slide transition like this. Add CC force motion blur. And for this one I'll do like 15 and 0. And there you go, that's how I do a zoom out slide transition. A zoom in slide transition is literally the same, just swap it. All right, the next thing I'm gonna show you guys how to do is zoom ins and zoom outs like this. So yeah, those had twitches on it. You can add those if you want. I'm gonna show you how I made the screen go in and out like that. Go ahead and add transform. Set the keyframe at the beginning. Move your cursor to where you want it to be zoomed in. I'm gonna put mine here and set it to like 125 on the scale. Then click U on your keyboard, find your keyframes, highlight them. We're gonna graph them. And for a zoom in, I like to graph them like this. Simply just that. I've seen some people do it the other way around. I don't think that looks very good. I don't know why. I like it like this. And then for zooming out, pretty much the same principle, just going the other way. Move your cursor to where you want it to start zooming out. Go ahead and find your keyframes again. Just hit U. Go over here to set a keyframe, because you want to set another keyframe while it's still at whatever you set it to while zoomed in. Hit O on the keyboard and make it 100 there. And then when you graph the zoom out, graph it like this. Again, I've seen people do it kind of like that, but I prefer it to look like this. And there you go, that's how you do a zoom in, zoom out type effect, the way I do it. For the drop effect right here, I did this, which is a combination of twitch, optics compensation, and turbulent displace. Most of the time, I'll just do twitch and optics. Here, I decided to get a bit funky, you know, and use turbulent displace. So basically, you just have your twitch, the same way I showed you how to set it up earlier. I'll show you what I did for optics and turbulent displace. So go ahead and search for optics compensation on your effects and presets. Check the box that says reverse lens distortion and set it to vertical. It doesn't matter which one you set it at. I normally do vertical. And set a keyframe. Go to the keyframe where twitch is at its highest, which is this frame right here, and set it to whatever you want. I'm gonna do 80. Oops, I accidentally unclicked the box. And then go to the end of your adjustment layer and set the keyframes to 0. And now we're gonna graph. So highlight the keyframes, F9, F9, you know the drill. And then I simply just pull these in. Then for the turbulent displace, just search up turbulent displace on effects and presets. Make the amount 0. I set the size to 200 and you don't change that, you keep it the same. Again, go to where twitch and now optics are at their highest. Set the amount to 50, we're gonna do 50. And then at the end of the adjustment layer, set it to 0. And we're gonna graph this as well. So same thing as you did on optics compensation. Just highlight them, move them like this. And that's how you do that. Next, I'm gonna show you how to do this rotational transition. This is pretty much the exact same principle as slide transitions, just with rotation. So make sure motion tile's on there and add transform. We're not editing with scale this time, we're editing with rotation. So set a keyframe for rotation, it's at 0 right now. Go to the very end of your layer and set it to 180. Hit U on your keyboard, highlight your keyframes, graph them, and then just move the graph just like you're doing a zoom in transition pretty much. And then just like before, we're gonna add force motion blur. We're gonna do 0 at the beginning and 50 at the end. Now the second part of a rotational transition is a bit different than the second part of a slide transition. So again, put up transform, make a keyframe for rotation, set it to like 200 I guess. And at the end of the layer, make it 360 because that is gonna be just like 0 is, because that will bring you to the same point that 0 would at the beginning, except if you put 0, then it would make it go backwards and it wouldn't really be a smooth movement. Highlight the keyframes, yada yada yada, and graph like this. Again, add force motion blur, And we're gonna do 15 and 0. 15 beginning, 0 at the end. And that's how you do a rotational transition. All right, the last thing I'm gonna show you how to do in this editing with Jude type video thing is this hue shifting effect. So basically there I had the hue constantly shifting throughout the whole thing. I also had Twitch on there. You already know how to do Twitch. I just messed around with Twitch, made it look a little different, but with the same principles I had shown before. But I'm gonna show you how to do that hue thing. Switch up hue / saturation, and I bring it above Twitch. It looks better above Twitch for me. Set a keyframe at the beginning, next to channel range. And about every 2 or so frames, I'm gonna move the master hue about 1/4 around the wheel. I'm gonna hit U real quick so I can see those keyframes. And when you start getting a bit closer towards the end of your adjustment layer, move more frames ahead so that when it stops doing the whole hue shift thing, it looks nice and smooth. So at the end, just set it to 0 so it's complete. And yeah, that's how you do that. All right, so I'm not really gonna show you guys any more effects or how I set them up, because that's generally it. I am a very simple editor. I just like to be able to pull things off well instead of adding a bunch of effects in. I just try to make things look as smooth as possible and fit together well. There are other effects I use, but they're pretty simple and there's only like one principle, and that's just understanding how keyframes work, which I explained in this, so I don't think there's much more I need to go over. So yeah, last thing I'm gonna do is show you a LUT or CC. So go over to layer, new adjustment layer, and then pull this layer so it's above all of the clips but under all the effects, and make it so it goes over just all the effects and it's not over where there's no videos. Then go over to your effects and presets and search apply color LUT. So I've set this up so whenever I search and apply color LUT, it always brings me my LUTs folder. These are the LUTs that I have. I have Revenge, Evolution, Iconic, Ethereal, and the classic M31. You should at least have M31. That's a pretty common one that looks good on most clips. In my opinion, you should always add a LUT or a color correction because otherwise it just looks too raw. I think for this one, I'm gonna add Iconic. So now I've added it. To change the intensity of your LUT, you go over here to the arrow, and then effects, and then apply color LUT, and then compositing options, and you can change what you want it to be. You might do like 75. Okay, I'll do 75. For this edit, since it's still clips, I'm gonna add like a slight screen shake or wall motion just so it looks more dynamic. And most people use S shake. I use Wiggle-Rama, which sounds funny, but yep. Wiggle-Rama, here you go. And so here's Wiggle-Rama, and it will look really, really weird if you don't have anything else added. So I'll show you how to make it look not weird. First, what you do is you pull up transform, and you set up your scale so you can't see the black bars anymore. I set my wiggle speed to 0.7. I set my wiggle position to 5, wiggle rotation to 5, and wiggle scale to 4. There's one more thing I'm gonna do, which you don't have to do, but I have been doing a lot on my recent edits. So to do this, you can either just copy this adjustment layer and then delete everything off of it, or just make a new one. I'll just copy it and then delete everything off of it just to be quick. And this one, move all the way to the top, so above every single layer. And here, first I'm gonna add a bit of a vignette, which just makes it a bit darker on the edge of the screen, and you can use this to change how much you want that to be. Then I'm gonna add force motion blur over the whole edit. This basically just adds a bit of motion blur to any blur that's already there, and it really works well when you have a speed on Twixtor above 100 because then it's adding as much blur as there really would be if you're moving that fast. So I'm gonna add it and set it to like 80 because 180 is a bit too high. Yeah, and yeah, I'm gonna call this edit complete. I'm gonna go render it and then show you the end results of what it looks like. So yeah. Alright, thank you for watching. Hopefully this video helped you out with any editing tips and stuff like that, or if you just wanted to try out a style similar to mine. Again, I've said this before in this video, I'm a pretty simple editor. I don't add that many different effects in general, just try to overall make it look smooth. You may have also noticed I only use the plugins Twitch and Twixtor. I do have a Sapphire. I rarely ever use those effects anymore because, like I said, I'm trying to make more simple edits. I do use Sapphire effects every now and then. The Sapphire effects have pretty simple principles as well. Just understand how the keyframes work for them, and you should be good. But yeah, hope this video helped you out. See you in the next video.